Hello and welcome to NPTEL MOOC on Applied Electromagnetics. In this module, we complete the discussion of WDM components that we were talking about. Specifically, we look at Mach-Zehnder interferometer. Interferometer is just a device in order to observe interference, and you know when interference of light waves happen, right? So, you must have done an experiment on the so-called Young's double slit experiment, right? So, you would have two slits and then you had a source, a mercury lamp source or a sodium vapor lamp source, and then light would pass through these two slits and you would have had a screen where they would combine, right. So, you would see those rings, the intensity would be high whenever these waves from the two slits would combine in phase with respect to each other, and no light power or minimal light power when they would combine with a phase of 180 degrees with respect to each other. Okay. The same concept can actually be realized using optical fibers or an optical integrated circuit. All you have to do is you have to construct this one, right. You start with two waveguides and then fuse the cores together and then pull them apart. By now we already know that this is a coupler, right. So, we call this as an input coupler. The output port of the input coupler are actually again single mode optical fibers of length L. One arm, the upper arm has a length L, while the lower arm has a total length of L plus delta L, where delta L is the small optical length mismatch that we have kept, right, a physical length mismatch that we have kept. Then we have one more coupler at which the two waves come in, right, and then they interfere coupled to each other and you get the output at port 3 and port 4. You can describe a coupler instead of the way of cos square beta LC, sin square beta LC, you can describe them in the form of how much power is coupled from one port to the output ports and the other port to the output ports in the form of a matrix. Okay. So, this is the matrix description of a coupler. This is a coupler in which the amplitude splits into 1 by root 2, so that the power actually splits into half. Okay. So, this is an example of a 50-50 coupler. The corresponding matrix looks like this. The numbers J can be used in some cases, but you can also have couplers where the phase difference is actually -1. Okay. So, do not worry about that, whichever you want to use, you can use. Both type of couplers are available in market and both are equally valid descriptions for the coupler that we have described. Okay. So, what it says is that the output in port 3 is actually due to port 1 as well as from port 2 inputs, right. So, 1 by root 2 times E1 plus j by root 2 times E2 indicates that this is linearly coupling inputs from E1 and E2 and putting them onto E3. If you want to know how, we know how to describe E3 and E4 in terms of E1 and E2. If you turn this around, then you are describing it in terms of E1 and E2, right, or rather E3 and E4 in terms of E1 and E3 and E4. There is a lot of confusion out there, I am sorry. So, one way, so this is output, this is input, but if you turn the matrix around, invert the matrix, you will interchange the roles of input and output as well. Anyway, so what is so special about this one? Where is interference happening? The two ports of the coupler are equivalent of two slits of the interference experiment that you have performed, right. So, you have a same input, but then you have two output coming out from one slit and another slit. This is essentially the same operation as that of a coupler. So, a coupler is actually in the form of a slit, okay, and then the propagation is by the two arms of the coupler, right, and the phase difference is created by actually delaying one arm signal in one arm with respect to the other, so that they do not really arrive at the same time. So, this extra time difference is the delta L is precisely what we have included in the coupling mechanism out there. So, this is the way in which this coupler is, this is the way the extra delta L is coming in or implemented or is equivalent to the slit experiment, double slit experiment. Okay. And once they combine, they have to combine some way, right. So, we have already seen that in the 90-degree hybrid, the way to combine two optical signals is to put them through a coupler itself, right, and this is the job of the output coupler out there. So, you have two inputs coming in, and then of course, you do not actually get two outputs, but in the interference experiment, but in this case you get two outputs, okay, which is good, and that is what essentially is the output coupler trying to mimic. Okay. In the setup wise they might not look same, but in operation wise they are actually same. Okay. We already know how a coupler would split the signal. So, let us say the signal at E1, I mean 1 prime would be amplitude E1 by root 2. I am sending signal only in the first port, no input in the second port. So, you have E1 by root 2, then there will be propagation which begins at, say, if this was already some z, then there would have been some e power minus j beta z, but otherwise you do not have to worry about the propagation factor right here. This amplitude is split as j E1 by root 2, and then when you propagate at the output coupler, right. So, when you come to the output coupler, this would have been E1 by root 2 e power minus j beta L, right. This is the phase factor to which the first wave would have appeared, and the second wave would come in with an amplitude of j E1 by root 2 e power minus j beta L, that would be the common phase, but because of the extra propagation length, this extra phase of beta delta L also is acquired by the wave arriving at 2 prime. This is simple plane wave propagation through two paths of unequal lengths, right. And when you couple them back, so when you put them together back, you can actually show that the power in the third port is actually proportional to sine square beta delta L, and power in the fourth one is proportional to cos square beta delta L. You might question as to why we are actually constructing an interferometer while we could have obtained the same equations in the coupler case as well. The reasons are different. Although I have shown you that the path lengths are physically different, usually this delta L is achieved by a different means, that is actually achieved by changing the refractive index of this fiber. Okay. So, and you change this refractive index as proportional to the voltage. So, you can actually put in a voltage source and then change the refractive index. Okay. So, such effect in which you change the refractive index as a function of the external applied voltage is called as electro-optic effect, and you can actually either put in this way, or you can actually put an electro-optic medium in between and achieve this change of delta L or equivalent change of delta L by changing delta n, but delta n is directly proportional to the applied voltage P. And if this applied voltage is changing very slowly with respect to the optical carrier frequency, remember optical carrier frequencies are in terahertz. So, if you apply a 1 gigahertz signal, then 1 giga to 1 tera is about 1000 or 1000 times less than the factor, right. So, 1 giga times, so 1000 giga will be 1 tera. Therefore, as far as the optical carrier is concerned, this V of t, even when you apply a signal at 1 gigahertz, would actually be changing very, very slowly. Okay. So, in that case you can show, instead of looking at the power, if you look at the electric field amplitude, then you can show that the electric field amplitude in the third port can now be expressed as a function of time. Okay. It is a very interesting thing. We start off with a single frequency analysis, but we can actually express this one in terms of time, because as I said, the phase change is happening very, very slowly, right. So, if that is the case, then the power that is coming out can be written as some E0 by 2, because this outputs in or the inputs in 1 double prime and 2 double prime would have combined to give you output in 3 and 4. So, therefore, 1 by root 2 and 1 by root 2 would have multiplied by twice, therefore, you get a half over here. So, you have E0 by 2 some common phase factor of e power minus j beta L, and because they are combining, there will be an extra, or so they will combine with an extra phase factor, which will be some beta m. M is a proportionality constant, L is the length, original length, because I am not changing delta L, I am only changing delta n, right. So, this would also have a term of V of t, because delta n is proportional to V of t, with m as the proportionality constant. Okay. The usual way to write this one is to factor this term out, okay, and neglect the overall phase factor that would come out in this way, and then write it as E0 by 2. And if you do not even want to write this E0 by 2, because you are only interested in what is happening to the expression in this bracket, apart from some global phase, this would be cosine V of t by V pi times pi. where V pi is called as the half wave voltage. Why is that called as half wave voltage? Because when V of t is equal to V pi, then the output E3 will actually be equal to, so this would of course be E0 is the in amplitude at the first port, right. So that is E1 port, right. So E3 will be 180 degrees out of phase, right, with respect to input. Okay, so that is the reason why we call this V pi as a half wave voltage. So the important lesson here is that as long as the phase change is very slow, then you can write the electric field amplitude of the port 3 in terms of this. In fact, now if you change V of t, right, you can actually change the amplitude E3 of t. Of course, you will also change the phase because the phase factor is still present, which we neglected, but you do not have to neglect it if you are interested in the phase. But if you are interested only in the amplitude changes, then if you change V of t, right, so when V of t is 0, the transmission will be maximum, right, and then it will go down to 0 at V pi by 2, right. So at V pi by 2, this fellow will be cos pi by 2, and therefore that would be gone. The amplitude would actually go down in the cosine manner. So the amplitude would go down and then reach its negative maximum at V pi, right, and then it will again build up from this one. Similarly, this is what is going to happen on the negative values of V of t as well. But if you are only interested in the power, then in terms of the power, this is what you would actually see, because power is not negative. So the power is proportional to cos square, and this is how the power would change. So with V of t changing, the power changes periodically. You can use this in order to modulate or generate data or generate optical pulses. For example, if I take my V of t to be in this manner, okay, which has a this one of about say V pi by 2 and will go on this side to minus V pi by 2. So this is a signal which is varying with respect to time, right, but having an amplitude of V pi by 2, and let us say this has a total time period of t. Okay. What will happen to the output? Now you probably remember this load line concept, right. So you can actually look at what is happening to this input. So at this input, as input V of t is going through 0, output should be maximum, right, and as the input rises towards V pi by 2, output power actually falls. Okay. So output power actually falls and then stays this way. From V pi by 2, as the input starts to drop, the output power actually starts to raise, right. Similarly, you will also have for one other time, right. So if you look at this, this is one pulse, right, and this is another pulse, right, or you can think of this entire thing as one pulse, and this will also be continuously coming on the other side also, right. So this would be another pulse. You can actually see that over one time duration you have managed to generate 2 pulses. So if you want to generate optical pulses at say 10 giga pulses per second, it is necessary to modulate your Mach-Zehnder interferometric modulator at 5 gigahertz. If you do not want to generate optical pulses, but you want to convey information, you can, for example, let us say you are conveying 0101 binary kind of a thing, right. So you can actually do that by simply extending or sending out a binary signal. So you do not send anything out, then optical power will be maximum, and then when you do send or when the input goes up to V pi by 2, so this is binary 1, this is 0. So for 0 the optical power will be maximum, but for bit 1 the optical power will be minimum, right. So you can actually see that you are able to nicely turn on and off the laser in effect by sending out 0 and V pi by 2 optical signals, right. So this way of transmitting information by equivalently turning off a laser on and off is called as a on-off keying system. Okay. It is not necessary that you always transmit digital information, you can even transmit analog information. You can do so that by actually sending in an analog signal. Okay. So we conclude in this module, we conclude this module, and in the next module we will actually look at a way in which to understand the propagation of electromagnetic waves when the properties of epsilon is not really same at different directions. Okay. So those are called as anisotropic media, and in fact those media can actually be used, those materials can actually be used to implement modulators that we have discussed. Okay. So, until then, thank you very much.